Hey everybody, it's Tim again, and I have something that's pretty new, like released in the last day or two new here. The NECA Bride of Frankenstein figure, the silver screen black and white version of the Bride of Frankenstein. Of course, the color version came out recently, and much to my surprise, the black and white version wasn't far behind. Now, this one is pretty tough to find. You got to know where to look. You're not going to get her at brick and mortar just yet. But if you dig around, there are some comic shops. There are some other places online, smaller vendors that seem to be getting these things in a lot earlier. So I took advantage of that. Now, it might cost you a little bit more. This one's retailing online at some vendors for $37.99. And then, of course, you're paying for shipping. Sometimes you get free shipping or reduced shipping. Whereas if you find it at brick and mortar, you don't have to worry about that. But you know what? I've been so excited about this because the black and white version of all the NECA monsters from Universal Studios so far are my absolute favorites. I mean, we've got the Mummy, we got Frankenstein's monster, we got Bela Lugosi's Dracula and the Wolfman, played by Lon Chaney Jr., and of course the Mummy, played by Boris Karloff as well. So this is the fifth in the series of their silver screen or black and white versions. As you can see, Elsa Lanchester plays the Bride of Frankenstein in that 1939 film. Or is it 35? One of those two. 30, I think it's the mid-30s. Where, you know what, it was a short appearance, less than 5 minutes probably. Undoubtedly, it was one of the most memorable debuts of a character that has stayed burned in our mind for so long. And so she definitely deserves her own figure. Now, if you look to the back here, what you're going to see is we have the Bride of Frankenstein. Her mouth's open just a little bit. We got 3 portraits all together with this one. The other one is her screaming. Of course, she's screaming at Frankenstein's monster in that last scene of the Bride of Frankenstein. That's when he said the most famous words, "She hate me like others." You can't ever forget a line like that. And here's just another look at her here. And then, of course, what I really love underneath this gown is the bandaged look. And that includes a bandaged head. And you can see her eyes, just like the way they removed that covering from her eyes in the film. And they actually do have a covering for that portrait. So there's just another look at the side of the box. And then I'm going to give you a quick look at these accessories, etc., as they are in the box without too much reflection here. There's the portrait with the bandaged head. Down below here, you see the mask covering her eyes. That's her mouth. It's just a little bit open there. And then, of course, we have the screaming portrait. And, of course, there's some other accessories, too. So let's take this out of the box, put it on the turntable, and take a look at NECA's newest black and white release, The Bride of Frankenstein. And here she is on the turntable, NECA's Bride of Frankenstein, the black and white version. As you can see, this is a wonderful figure just right off the bat. You can't mistake the shock terror. I love that. Interesting thing about the original, the color version, I should say, is that Elsa Lanchester's hair and the first color version's hair is actually reddish, which apparently showed up better on black and white film. So that's why there was a color differential there. So, you know, obviously they got the hair down perfectly. I love the sculpt of Elsa Lanchester. Of course, we got the long flowing gown. We have the tie for the gown and back. I thought that was somewhat unusual since, you know, I can't see any reason for untying this, because the only reason you do that is to take the head off to put on the alternate portrait, which of course is right here. I'll give you a closer look at that. And a little bit better look. Yeah, that is just amazing. I think that we saw her in the movie doing it from somewhat the side-to-side angle. But here we get all of the angles here. And then while I am at it, I'm going to show you the mask and the bandaged version of the Bride of Frankenstein. This is a cool portrait already. You can just tell, I mean, having this extra feature. I recall Sideshow Collectibles version back in the day not having that, but obviously in the movie they removed it, and you got the eyes there. So there is another wonderful shot. Just so sometimes these things just don't want to cooperate. There we go. See, yeah, that's as cool as well. Got the cool stitching right here. And all the way around back like a mummy almost. And here is the mask. And of course, to just go over this one again, the mask has a little nose area here, nose piece you can fit on there. And it seems to fit pretty well. Yeah, so that's awesome. I mean, this is kind of like a 2 figures in 1 sort of deal. You know, maybe, somewhere down the line, maybe getting another one just so you can pose her on the lab table would be cool too, because that's obviously going to be the case here. Now, as she winds around, you're going to see this little bandage thing. Now, I was so anxious getting this out of the package. There's actually 2 loose bandages that hang on the wrists of these figures, and I don't know, it's on the floor somewhere, so I will find it eventually. This figure also does come with an extra set of hands. And just get that one in focus there. There we go. And I don't know if I can, yeah, there we go. There's the other hand. So those are the hands that I'm going to actually put on the bandage version of, the fully bandaged version of the Bride of Frankenstein. So while I'm at it, I'm going to take off this portrait. Now, the interesting thing about that here is you got the neck and part of the upper torso on there. So, and I think that's just to accommodate the bandage version. So putting on the alternate portrait, it's pretty simple. And, obviously the gown here is going to hide some of those lines. I don't know if I gave you a good enough look at the hair the last time I showed you this portrait. And then from the back, very cool. Here from the side, again. And let me pop this off. What's great, it really pops off easily. I'm not dealing with a ball joint or anything here. It's just a different sort of way to get that extra portrait on. And then let's give you a close-up of this portrait here. There we go. Yeah, that's awesome. That is really awesome. Now, again, there's a side look, and I would imagine the hair is pretty much going to be the same. It's just the screaming deal she's got going on her face, that screaming look. As you can see, they got the scars here per the character. Good articulation. We can move the head around. And this is the case with both this head and the other unbandaged head as well. So what I'm going to do is pause, and I'm going to get the bandage version ready for you and put her on the Frankenstein's Monsters accessory table, which was a deluxe set from NECA. And again, okay, here's the Bride of Frankenstein from NECA, the black and white version on Frankenstein's Monsters lab table. Of course, that was a deluxe release that came quite a few months back. And of course, I've done a video on that you can check out on this channel. Of course, it came with this covering, so I will undo the covering to show you the Bride of Frankenstein on the table. And as you can see here, she doesn't quite fit the way that Frankenstein's monster fits the table. Actually, if you might have noticed on the back of the box, they do show her on the table right there, but there aren't any restraints or anything going on. So what they did, I figured, well, let's just see how it works out with these. So you do have the her head on the headrest. I did put down the arm restraints as well as the mid-torso, the top of the legs, and the bottom of the legs. And as you can see, it comes up probably about an inch short if you want to make this thing look cool. But you know what? I'll take it. It works. This is the only scene where we actually saw her in The Bride of Frankenstein, of course, starring Elsa Lanchester and Boris Karloff as Frankenstein. In the film, let's give this a 360 to see what this thing looks like as I spin it around. And I'm going to have to move this out a little bit. Yeah, it looks so cool. What else can I say? It looks really, really cool. Of course, this is one of the accessories that came with the table. Not quite black and white, but it's going to have to work for these purposes. Now, again, you can see there are no peg holes on the bottom of this figure, which again is really, really strange. I don't know if they planned on that, but it is what it is. If it was a factory error, I'll accept it. Again, one of the teeny sacrifices that you have to give into, that you'll have to make when you get a figure early, like I did from an online retailer. So, yeah, I love this figure. I can't tell you how much I do. Again, I love the 2-in-1 aspects of it. And what I'm going to do here is shut that 360 down and try to give you a look. Now, of course, the difference with this lab table is that they didn't actually make it where you could pose it as such, where you could pose it up and flip the table up to the side. So you're going to have to do it by hand to see, because obviously at the end of the film, before they introduced the Bride of Frankenstein to Frankenstein's monster, she's on the lab table. They removed the covering, and Dr. Pretorius and Dr. Frankenstein tilted her up sideways on the table, at which point they took off the covering of the eyes, and you got that right here. So again, very, very cool look all around from that. So I love the figure. I love the fact that we can use it on this table for the most part. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit shorter than the actual Frankenstein's monsters figure. So what I will do is take another pause, and I'm going to measure this up to the Frankenstein's monster figure and see how NECA's Bride of Frankenstein, the traditional look, with the gown and the unbandaged head, how that looks next to all the other NECA figures that are in black and white. Okay, one final shot of all of the NECA black and white Universal Monsters figures together. From the left, we have Bela Lugosi's Dracula, Lon Chaney Jr.'s The Wolfman, Elsa Lanchester's Bride of Frankenstein, and Boris Karloff as both the Mummy and Frankenstein's monster. And as you can see, the Bride of Frankenstein's a little bit shorter than Frankenstein's monster. I would bring her in at about 7 inches, and there she goes. And again, that's part of the problem with not having a peg hole. Okay, so I'm thinking about 7 or so. And if we're going to go with Frankenstein's monster, and there we go, we'll put it on top of the stand, that's about 8. So that perfectly explains to you why it fits much better on the lab table than the Bride of Frankenstein figure. Again, I don't mind. It looks cool. That's what matters. Maybe the leg restraints, the ankle restraints don't quite match up. But again, you get the effect, the same effect that you do. Now, again, it's kind of tough to pose this one without an actual peg hole in it. As you can see, I got stands, NECA stands on the bottom of all the rest of these figures. But again, the black and white color schemes all match up, giving us a look at these monsters the way we remember them. And there she fell over again, which is really, real cool. I mean, look, I'm a monster kid at heart. A few of you have commented on some of my videos telling me that you're monster kids too. I mean, we grew up with this stuff. That's why it means so much to us. That's why it is so freaking cool that we're actually getting these products now to make us even more poor as we build up our collections in our later years. So my name is Tim Lammers, and I review cool movie toys. And please like this video. Please tell all your friends, tell all your monster-loving friends, especially those who love The Bride of Frankenstein. I have to tell you, the film itself, I mean, that's probably my favorite Universal Monsters film, and of course, Elsa Lanchester, who can forget that role, that glorious 5-minute role. And every time you see something associated with the Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein is right with them. And that just kind of shows for you the incredible staying power that this character has had for, gosh, it's going on 90 years or so. And so that's it for now. Please like it. Please subscribe. And I'll be back with another monster movie toy review very soon. Happy toy hunting, everybody.